Hello and welcome to another Ask the Expert interview with me, Matt from IDIFM. Today I've got a really special guest. Not that any of the others aren't special, but I've got a funny feeling this is going to be a really powerful chat today with Salwa Abdul Hadi. Okay, she has a world of experience from different cultures, looking at things from a female perspective and looking at things like gender equality and loads of other powerful topics. So stay tuned. Get yourself a cuppa and enjoy. Hi and welcome everyone to another Ask the Expert interview where actually I'm speaking to people that don't consider themselves experts, just to set the scene. There's no pressure here. And today I'm absolutely delighted to speak to Salwa. How are you doing today? You okay?
I'm great, yes, thank you.
Fabulous. And it's just been the Easter break, so we've just been catching up on taking some time off and taking care of yourself. But for a start, what would be really nice, because you've got a lot of experience in stuff and you've got a massive message to tell and you know, just spreading positivity. Could you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so yeah, my name's Salwa and I am a social entrepreneur myself. So I am actually a big gender equality advocate and I fight against oppression against women. And then that's sort of my social entrepreneur side. And then I also coach and empower social entrepreneurs and women who are on a mission to make an impact. And I help them basically discover their authentic selves and step into that power and then become leaders themselves. That's kind of what
I was going to say, because I read The Social Entrepreneur and I was so fascinated to find out actually what that is. So what is it? So I know we'll cover a little bit about your history and in superhero terms, your backstory, which I think is really interesting as well. And it does make up exactly who we are today, but as we know, it doesn't define us. What is it that led you to working so closely with women?
I think as well, it's a lot of my experience, and yeah, if we talk a little bit about my background, I grew up in Saudi Arabia, so I'm a Muslim, and I grew up, as you're probably aware, it was a very patriarchal country.
Yeah.
I also was in a patriarchal home as well, so I was taught very young that my place as a woman was that I was going to be a wife and a mother, and that was it. And I was taught that I was second class as a citizen. And that message was at home, but then it was also cemented when I went to school and then in the community as well. Whenever we went out, there would actually be little signs in the windows saying no women allowed. And yeah, those messages were just coming from every direction. And, you know, of course, subconsciously, you're taking all that in. And you just don't think that you have a place in the world. And then when I was 15, my mother's English, so we came to the UK and massive culture shock, massive. I'd lived quite a sheltered life until then. And it took, suddenly at 15, I had to think about a career. I had to think about well, just how to move forward, really, you know, just to have a bit of freedom. And it's that journey that I went through the culture shock, through learning that actually, you know, I am worth something. I can be something more than just a wife and a mother, which I do love being, but I do have, you know, I do have worth. I do have value as a human being. So I think because of that, I find it easier to work with women who come from a similar background, or have been downtrodden or have had some adversity in their life, because then I can kind of hopefully hold their hand and say, look, you can get there, you can, you know, we can walk this way, and just share a little bit about my own journey and how I came from thinking I was nothing really to actually, yeah, I am someone.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's completely different to my experience as a man is going to be different anyway. But you know, I'm English born and bred, and that doesn't define me again. But you don't see any of them kind of signs. So you don't see. We've all heard of, I think, the patriarchal kind of, and it by all means is an old-fashioned ideal of
Yes.
what the family would be, the male breadwinner, etc., etc. But from what you're saying there, actually, that's another level beyond, and that's
Yes.
actually, and what you said there is value, and changing the value of what is somebody worth, defined by the gender they are.
Yeah, definitely. It isn't just, and you know, I mean, this was in the UK and the West 100 years ago or something, but maybe it's even, like I say, another level in certainly in the Arab countries and where I come from. And of course, this isn't every household. There are a lot of progressive households there, but culturally, there is that kind of level where women are thought of as second class. And unfortunately, and you know, I've did some research recently, I'm currently doing my PhD research, and women justify and accept violence because it's kind of, it's matched to the social norms of that country or that culture, and that's unfortunately what's happening right now.
And is that still happening to this day? Do you know?
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's happening in some countries, but also in the UK, in cultures it's happening as well.
Yes.
But it's hidden. A lot of women don't speak up about it. Again, another layer of that is the shame and the honor, and how everything rests on the woman's shoulder as the person who has to hold the family together, and you have to sacrifice yourself and your needs for the good of the family, and for basically almost serving the males. And this is another thing that I'm trying to spread the message of, because I grew up as a Muslim. I mistakenly put 2 and 2 together and thought that that was Islam, and it's not.
Okay, yeah.
So that's another thing, the misconception that this is something to do with the religion, which we, as some Muslim women, also think, and that's another reason we don't speak out, because we think, oh well, I'm meant to do this, I'm meant to have this place. But also the wider society as well sort of think that Muslim women are oppressed, and yes, some of them are, but it's culture, it's not religion.
And I think that's a really, really important separation to make between the two, as you say, because again, what we can find in religion, from what I've read and what I've heard other people speak about, because I'm not hugely religious myself, I don't, you know, again, isn't part of me, but it's that overall belief that does in some way, it can define you. It can define your actions, because you are going by, you know, the texts or whatever that belief of that religion is. I always find it interesting to try and talk about religion, because I don't want to sound like I'm making any judgments, but try and be there from a third party perspective. But there can be so many strong values instilled through us, and especially through generational things as well. Like your parents, you know, your grandparents will be one way and expect your parents to be. So then if you conform in a matter of a word, then that expectation falls to you, you know, and that will go for years and years and years and generations. But as we see things change, especially as when you moved from Saudi over to here, you know, what was the first challenge you faced in actually realizing and growing a bit of your self-worth and actually moving away from that? Was that something you were able to do yourself, or did you have to get any help for that?
I think I had to get help. If I look back, it was a massive struggle, and I think that's what, again, I'm hoping to get the message across, that even when we can take women out of these situations, that's not the end, that's the beginning. Because what's been ingrained on you since you were born, and those beliefs, even if you're not in the physical environment anymore, you're still putting it on yourself. It's still happening, and in fact worse, because you know, so I was really mean to myself for many years, and I had health problems, and I didn't know what to do with this environment that was so different around me. And then all the guilt came in, and oh, I'm going to go to hell, I'm not being a good girl, I'm not being a good Muslim. So like you had the freedom there,
Yeah.
but then you had the like, oh no, I'm going to get into trouble, or I'm going to, you know, and just that really sort of almost self-hate, that you're bad, you're this, you're that, and that I've carried with me until my mid-30s. So and then it was when I was introduced to personal development, which was an accident. Very
good accident by the sounds of it.
Very good accident, yes, definitely. And through that, I started working on, so I'd had counselling throughout my, you know, I'd had counselling, there were issues there, but it had helped, but it hadn't been able to move me forward. So when I was introduced to personal development and also coaching, I got a coach, that's when things changed, because then it was like, right, how are we going to move you forward? And that's when things changed for me.
That's great. And do you know what? I think the most powerful thing about that is that you felt all these feelings, and it sounds like, although it was a massive challenge and a struggle, I always find there's massive amounts of power in just embracing that and actually overcoming the challenge. Because what it is, it's too easy to try and distract yourself and put it to one side and kind of say, well, I'll deal with that later, I'll do something, you know, kind of procrastinate. So actually getting going to counselling, or, you know, seeing a coach, someone that can help you get through that. And actually the distinction between, I think as well, the counselling and the coaching, because for me there's a definition there of the counsellor is really, really good at fixing things. So actually looking and putting reason to things, and then almost getting you to a good starting point, so you're not held back as much. Whereas a coach, or a good coach essentially, would really springboard you into getting exactly where you want. And, you know, you're doing fantastic things. I've seen all over on your Instagram and your Facebook, which you use a little bit more, that you've done other talks. What has this message enabled you to be able to do? What kind of platforms have you got your message out? You know, tell me a bit more about your experience of that.
Well, yeah, I think that's only been something quite recently, because I was, even though I was still moving forward, you know, it's not an easy journey. It takes a long time and it's continuous. But also I was still struggling with that almost belief in God and belief in Islam, but also not understanding how this religion that I knew to be peaceful was putting women down. So I then went back and started studying Islam myself and started reading the Quran, not somebody else's interpretation of it. And that's when I started to realize that. And that's when I thought, right, I've got to get this out there. I've got to speak about this. And yeah, it's been really good. I've done some campaigns which have been phenomenal, where basically it was like, this is not Islam. This is not Islam that we're talking about, and speaking to Muslim women and saying, you know, this is what culture, this is actually pre-Islam. What they've almost like taken what they want. Hey, you know, we want to keep our, and I'm sorry, there is supremacy and things there. So what can we use to sort of keep oppression and keep oppressing this other thing? So that campaign, and what I did was I got together and I had 23 fantastic women, Muslim leaders, rising stars, come on and talk to me and show their journey and show, look, here we are, we're role models, this is what you can do, and we're good Muslims. So that was really good. And I got in, I've been on the BBC, I've been in the Telegraph, Yorkshire Post is interviewing me tomorrow. So there's a few things that it's caught the attention of. So that's good. It
is. And again, I suppose I keep, when I'm listening to you, and it's fascinating hearing some of your story and the things that you're doing, because I think, especially with the last year being as it's been, it's great to have some positivity. And I think when you're speaking to them fantastic women that you were working with, and again, it's that distinction of, you can succeed, you can be what you want to be, and you are a good Muslim.
Yes.
Because it's not, like you said, it's not you are a bad Muslim because you are not doing this. there's the two differences. You know, you can be extremely successful, you can you can dream as high as you want. The societal glass ceilings will always be there, but that's an individual's perception of the goals that are ahead of them and the challenges that are ahead of it. But essentially, you're not necessarily locked into something. It is a societal expectation, especially in, I don't know whether it's more, is it more close-knit communities? Like maybe.
Yeah, that's the other side of it, that so you've got different types of cultures. You've got collectivism cultures, which are very much, it's about the community, it's about, and then you have the West tend to be more individualistic. So it's like, it's obviously family is important, but it's about, you know, how you're going to succeed. Whereas in collectivism cultures, everything you do has to almost be for the good of the community.
Yes.
Which can be good, but it also has the danger that you're then held back and you're stuck, kind of thing in this. And also that, unfortunately, where if you're in a dangerous situation or an abusive situation, you haven't just got the one person to fight. You've then got the community. You've then got, you know, you've got levels to go through. And I've forgotten your question.
No, it's fine. So have I. It's fine. And this is why I just wanted to have a chat, because again, when you say about the collectivism and that idea, I was having a chat with somebody last week, and we were talking about indigenous tribes, and we were talking about things many years ago, and that idea of community and that idea of that joint expectation, and everyone has their own role.
Yes.
Now, it can be very positive and strong. It can be strength in numbers, but it all depends on how them expectations actually play out for the individuals within that. It does naturally restrict you in being your own person, because there's that expectation of your role, and this is why it leads to, you know, situations like this. And I think we are in a world where you can change that, but for some people, it's, you know, it's not until there's maybe an intervention or someone like yourself that's spreading that message to say, look, this is out there. Because for some people, you know, seeing, you can put up as many posts as you want, as many positive posts, but in that person's mindset, oh, well, that can't be me. I've got to be this person. So it's so ingrained, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely ingrained. And I think that's why it's important to, I'm very much a big believer in collaborations, and I'm very much a believer in, you can hear the same message from different people, but one person, it will click. You might have heard the same message before, but one person will say, and that's why I got together these sort of army of women to talk. And there were local councillors. There was Salwa Arif, she was one of the Leeds councillors in. There was leaders from coaching, from businesses, from corporate, lots of women, Muslim women who'd founded up their own charities, who came on to talk. And again, just talk about the challenges that they faced and how they overcame that, and how they justified it within Islam and within their values. And actually in Islam, it tells us that if you see anything, any oppression or anything like that, you need to speak up. It's our responsibility to speak up. So yeah.
I mean, that's really interesting. And that's obviously why you've spent so much time going back and studying you know, Islam, because like you said, it's an interpretation of that. Then you know, whether you're going to religious meetings, whether you're going to, you know, religious places, and your leaders and the people you look up to and the people you respect give you that interpretation of, which is where we get, you know, little subgroups of religions as well. And the message is not trying to, you know, make this a joke, because it isn't, but it's almost like Chinese whispers.
Yeah,
in some respect.
It is. Yeah, I call it, so it's our fathers, or our, you know, forefathers version of Islam, and it's their interpretation. And there are verses you can pull from the Quran that two people can read it, and this is with anything, isn't it? Two people can witness a scene and they will both tell you a different side of it, because we only take in what we want.
Yes.
You know, I'm very humanistic in my the way I work with my clients, and person-centered, and that's very much that we are all the experts within our own field, and our own sort of, not field, but in our own world. our own perspectives. And that's why, you know, if anything's bothering you and that's where it wasn't sitting with me right, go back and look at it yourself, you know, because everything comes through a filter, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's somebody else's filter.
It is. And, you know, just to go slightly left from that,
Yeah.
is especially over the last year, it's, if you're the kind of person that is, you take on a lot of information, you're not normally the kind of person to look into things. We've had, you know, and still have in some respects, the pandemic and the lockdown and the news that's been broadcast to us, and that will be that company's interpretation of. And then you've got all of a sudden all these outlets, with us being in a very social media based environment, you know, you get all these, and maybe this is the time to actually start looking into things yourself. And I've started looking into things that I was interested in or didn't quite sit right, because I wanted to know the reason behind things, or I wanted to gather my own opinion.
Yes.
Rather than rely on somebody else's necessarily, and to regain some of that control and some of that power. Because like you say, there will be some people that read them verses, you know, in Islam, that then translate that to, this means my version of a patriarchal society. But then gloss over or pass where it talks about oppression and speaking up. So, you know, so there's millions and millions and millions of people that think they are living the correct way. And that can be a massive struggle itself, in just speaking out and actually getting somebody else to see your point of view, and actually sometimes to see the physicality. You know, there's sometimes, you know, there's things that classes abuse in some cultures that don't in others. And, you know, there's all these similarities between what expectations societies have. But when you realize, like you said, you realize that it's all individual, and it's, yes, there's something wrong and we want to fix that, but let's open people up to the other messages, the other beliefs that people have, and let them know that that's normal. And maybe more people can make a choice in whether they live in that and stay in that. Obviously, the elite, if there's any illegal things, then we'd like that to stop, and, you know, we'd like to change. But empowering more people and putting that confidence to be able to, I suppose, explore more about your culture or your religion. Be able to become I'm massive on trying to become a truer version of yourself. So be the most confident in the best version of you, which looks so different in so many people. And that's why it's so fascinating. But sometimes you get stuck in a rut and you think that you can't do that. You think that who you are is defined by your family, by where you're born, by the situation you're born in. And that actually defines you. Whereas, as you said earlier, you are the expert of your own story. You are the author of your own autobiography. It's up to you what the rest of the pages say.
And I mean, that can be quite difficult, especially if you've had an upbringing where maybe you've felt invisible, or you've never really known who you are. And that's one thing I was wanting to mention, because so between sort of 15 and 35, when I started realizing personal development, I did eventually have a successful career. You know, I was in the banking industry, I was a leader, and, you know, I went into underperforming branches, brought them up top performing. So I was high in my career ladder, but I was coming at it from a different point of view. So I was coming at it in a point where I needed to prove what I could do to feel worthy. I was looking for that external validation. I was looking for a way to impress people, because I'd never really had that before. So that's what I was trying to do. I wasn't aligned with my own values. I was just doing what I needed to do to get up there. And I ended up with a breakdown. I ended up having 8 weeks off work, and physical things coming through as well. Whereas now, and since I've done that the personal development, now I went back to basics, and it's about, right, who am I? And discovering who is the real me, looking at my values, looking at my strengths, looking at the Shiro, I call it the Shiro within.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
And this is the work that I do with my clients as well. So it's like, right, let's figure out who you are. Then let's align who you are with what you're trying to do. So make sure that your business or whatever you're doing is aligned with your values, because that you can still do it if it isn't, but it causes a lot of problems, and it always has a way of coming out. So let's do that first. And once we've done that, then we're going to rise up as the leaders that we are. Then we're going to step into our power. And that's the process. And I think until you do that, you've got to, you know, we talk about being yourself, but you've got to do it for the right reasons. And that reason's got to be you, you know. And also not comparing. I mean, I know everybody talks about don't compare yourself with others and keep yourself in your own lane. But one lesson I learned was I was comparing myself all the time, and I was like, well, I know I can be successful, so why am I not going as quick as so and so? But actually my story and my demons and my past was completely unique to me, as is everybody's. And I had to face that first, and then I'll move at my pace. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah. And I'm glad you said the thing that you do, because this over here, I'm doing it for me. And you know, I can see that we're both under that same, I suppose, I don't know, that same mission, I suppose, because like you said, it's fine. It's aligning them values. I did that last year. You know, as soon as lockdown came in, and all of a sudden, as a personal trainer in the gym, I could no longer work anymore. So I struggled to then find what my worth was. And you know, on this earth, I knew I wanted to help people. But when I looked into values, it was like, hang on, what makes me feel really good? What in my gut tells me, what do I get excited about doing? I get excited about spreading messages. I get excited about getting positive responses and having conversations. And ultimately, my value is serving others. And when I realized that for 3 or 4 years, I'd been personal training, but I've been doing it for many different reasons, including to make money, which then, because of the financial, I then lost sight of why I was actually doing it. So I was doing it and still doing it and doing it well. I was keeping the business running, but I wasn't enjoying it or as passionate as I am now, because then you realize, like you say, when you align your values, you find out exactly what makes you tick. Then it's a game changer, isn't it? And I think there's a lot in that kind of gut feeling, that gut feeling response. That gut feeling can either be nervousness or excitement, which actually are two sides of the same knife, I think. Or, you know, it's telling you if something doesn't feel right, then generally something isn't right. And it's not it's not necessarily what's going to happen or the actions, it's how you feel about them and how you feel about doing them.
Definitely. Did you ever watch there was a program I used to watch, Home Improvements or something like that? It was a big American film program. Have you watched it, where it's Move That Bus? No.
Was it a sitcom, or was it an actual, like?
No, it was a reality. Reality. So they'd go in, and it'd usually be people who'd made a difference in the community.
Yes, and then they drove the thing away, and then they were like,
yes, move that bus. Anyway. So I used to watch that, and this was when I was at the bank, and you know, and I used to just get this almost like pain in my tummy, because I was like, I want to, you know, I almost like I knew I wanted to be doing something that made an impact, something that made a difference, but I didn't have a clue how or what, or you know. But that is that to me is your body screaming that, hang on, we're not in alignment here, you know. So it's funny, because that always makes me think.
But they're the things that stick with us, and that, you know, that could be a defining moment for you, and that's brilliant because we can find it in the smallest things. I can't think of I mean, there's so many examples running through my head. I can't actually pick one. I mean, that's the problem with an overthinking mind. But you know, it is. I think there's a big thing about being open to receive some of these signs. You know, and even for people that I know, a lot of people that I can't necessarily have the best conversations about self-development, about this kind of thinking, because it's something they've never approached before. But even if you're in a position where you haven't looked into self-development books just look like big books full of words, and actually you're in a point where you're kind of happy with your job, you're kind of happy with life, you're kind of this, and that's absolutely fine. There's no judgment. But you know, opening your eyes and really looking at some of the things that we do autonomously, some of the things we do without thinking, because we might actually not be making a choice to do that. That might be somebody else's choice that we've just done through routine or through our parents or all that expectation. But actually looking and making more conscious decisions. So when you're making a decision, actually think about what you're doing and why you're doing it. I think that actually can start to open your eyes a little bit and can start to really empower you into thinking, hang on a second. So I'm doing that, but the last 5 times I've done that, it doesn't feel great. So why am I doing it again? Rather than just doing it and feeling that pain again and again. I see it in relationship. I see it in my own, my own story. I've not had a greatest relationship with my parents, and there's other stuff there as well. But you suddenly realize that, hang on, for all this time, I've come across the same thing, and I've been making the same decision again and again and again. And again and again and again, it hurts, or it doesn't feel right, or it feels frustrating. But you don't realize you're doing it until you realize. I mean, that's a stupid sentence to make, but you don't realize until you think about it and you actually realize that you're doing it. And then once you change it, wow, like you don't realize how much pressure's on there. And like you said about when you were working in banking, you were doing the things that you thought you wanted to do to get the recognition, and that recognition was a good feeling.
Yeah.
But that was moving you so far away from your values. It's like running a car but not putting fuel back in it.
Oh, that's a good analogy. Yeah.
You will go so far, but in fact, here's a better one for anybody, because I love cars and I've got a background in cars, but if you don't put a good quality engine oil in your engine will run, but it won't always run as well as it could do. But once you put the right engine oil in and you look after the values, the engine oil's the values, and you look after yourself, that's when you can get the most out of the engine.
I like that. Yeah, because, definitely.
Things thoughts come into our heads, and it's a lot about the perception and our thoughts about that thought and how we then act on it. We really can be in control, can't we, of our life completely?
Yeah, the thing is as well, but there is a lot happening subconsciously, and that's where, and sometimes when you're doing something repeatedly, it's because there's a lesson for us to learn from that. And until we learn that lesson, we're not going to change, But yeah, a lot happens unconsciously. And I think that's what I mean by discovering yourself. It's like, right, let me have a look at what I've been doing, and taking responsibility. That's a big one. And taking ownership. And sometimes you might go to a coach and think, oh, she's got the magic wand and she's just going to go like this and I'm going to be super.
I wish.
There is a lot of work and a lot of really being honest with yourself and really looking, okay, and when I've looked at my past, with my eldest child, I've looked and thought, I've made some mistakes there. But it's also about not being really angry at myself, because I was doing the best I could at that time with the information I had. But I was almost recreating some things that had happened to me when I was younger. And now I know it. Now I can sort of fix it. Not fix it, but, I can change that. But it's about me taking ownership for that, taking responsibility that, yes, I had something to do with that. And now, right, okay, what can I do to move forward and change that?
Yeah. And the wonderful thing we know about change and that actual visible acceptance and that taking responsibility and that changing, especially with people around us, family, friends, is we don't have to say sorry for that. We don't have to feel bad for it. But if we change, that will radiate to other people around us. They will see that change, and that will then change what they see in us. It may well inspire them to change, because it's that true honesty, isn't it? It's embracing everything that you've done, every choice that you've made, and trying to head forward and just believe in every choice that you have made, that you make in future, and knowing that actually there may be ones that don't quite work out, but it's a lesson to be learned. It's not a failure. It's just a step. It's just another step, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
We could talk about this for hours.
I know.
Then we might have to have a part.
We might have gone off topic a bit.
So I mean, coming back to when you were talking about things about gender and empowering women, it'd be really great to know if there are any particularly standout moments for you working with people. Have you seen someone that's had a really significant change, or if you unlocked something in somebody, or what kind of success have you had in that way? What makes you feel good when you've worked with someone?
Gosh, I think, yeah, sorry?
Put you on the spot.
No, you have. I'm just thinking. No, I think one thing that really helped, there was one lady I was working with who said to me a few sessions in, she said, and when she first came to me, she had this sort of memory that was everything. It was massive to her. And it was a few sessions in that she said, actually, it wasn't that big. It's not as big as I thought it was. So that was really good. There was another lady, because what I found that is a talent is that I can bring out what people's values are, what their soul purpose, that's what I call it, is. And sometimes, you can be sort of a bit fuzzy with it yourself, but we can, I work with them to make it clear. And this one lady said afterwards, she said she was so full of energy, and so she had to go to the gym for an hour because there was just so much, like, she was almost shaking with excitement because we'd nailed it. Right. And, it can be a little bit, right, so why do you want to do that? Let's dig a bit deeper there, and really attaching what they want to do. And when that becomes clear, that kind of almost just paves the way, doesn't it, for where you want to go. And realizing that as an entrepreneur, if you're an entrepreneur, your business is not necessarily your purpose. It's just the vehicle that's going to get you to do your purpose.
Yeah.
That's been really good.
Good. No, I mean, I know from conversations with some of my clients as well, that feeling when somebody, just that light bulb moment, or sometimes as a listener, and that's one of the biggest powers as a coach, I believe anyways, the ability to be able to listen and then pick out some of them phrases that you might use to then ask, dig deep, a little bit deeper and go why. But sometimes the most powerful bit is, when someone's onto something, when there's that silence.
Yeah.
When you ask a question, and actually, and I've been there myself, I've had a coach as well, and that's helped me go through some of these processes, so what it feels like, and you're like, and you're almost second guessing because you thought you knew the answer.
Yeah.
When you dig into it, you're actually saying the answer because that's what's pre-programmed in you. When you actually think of, when you were trying to align it with the value, like you said, something, it's almost like something hitting the floor. You just don't know until you reprocess it and rethink about everything, actually what the answer is. And then when you attach it to your values, and realize your purpose, it really is enlightening. And I can see why that person wanted to go to the gym, because all of a sudden it's almost like you've got a room full of boxes and you've got no idea what priority you are. Say you try to tidy up, say you're moving house, right? I like comparing things. I like my analogies, yeah. So you're moving house, you're packing things up, you've got 10 boxes on the floor, you've got no idea which box to move first, which things to do first. So you do them by which ones you see, or you do them by which ones you come to first. You find a reason for doing it, but there's no real priority. But then when you're able to look through things and actually prioritize, like you said with that, that client that said, actually, that's not that big, but it felt big. So actually, if that person, if it felt big, then feeling's a big thing for them. So what are the other things that feel big? Can we explore them? And then you start putting these boxes, and actually that task, from being a menial moving house, I mean, I don't think anyone enjoys moving house, in that example. But once you can get them into an order, actually that can feel quite cleansing. And actually, once you've essentially got a head full of boxes that are in the right place, we all know what a clean kitchen feels like. It feels amazing. And sometimes them processes can be, quite difficult, very difficult, very challenging. But then you get to know everything that's in there, or you start to get a picture of everything that makes up you, that's in your head, that's in your beliefs, that's in your values, where they sit, what role they play, how strong they are, and actually learn when if somebody comes in with an opinion that counters that, how do you then begin to deal with that? Because that can be another challenge, can't it?
Yeah. And actually, you've made me think there was another lady that it was really good, because she had just had redundancy, you know, with what had happened. And she was very much like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't, you know, and through the coaching, we found out that she never, you know, yes, she had fantastic skills she'd gained from her employment, but it was never her sole purpose. It was never her, you know, what she wanted to do. And now she's actually enrolled in university and is going down that route. So she's completely changed her direction, but it's completely, she knows now without a doubt, she is on the road that she's meant to be on. I'm getting goosebumps because it was just really nice to see her come through that, you know, and know, right, this is what I'm doing.
Especially when it seems so natural, and then, you know, the decisions they're making based on that, especially with such a big change, then become ones of passion, or you can start feeling that enjoyment again because you're doing it for you. And some of these things that we are, one of the books I tell people a lot about in terms of self-development is because I've had a lot of financial based challenges, and the way that I saw money, Money by Ken Honda. And the idea being that when your parents say money doesn't grow on trees, that expands into more than money. So it's the idea of, we have this fear of not having money, but money is a concept that doesn't actually, well, it kind of exists because we use it as currency, but it doesn't. And there is infinite money out there. It's about your belief that you're able to find it. But it's, apart from the fact I've just lost my train of thought because I've gone so far off into the book. Yeah, that was great, wasn't it? It was like a car crash. It's
you were talking, what were you talking? You were talking about, what were you talking about?
I'll tell you what, this is as raw as it gets, guys. This isn't BBC. This isn't the Telegraph. This is two people sat in the houses just having a chat about the good stuff. And actually I was coming back round to, again, it's that generational thing of that belief of, you are brought up fearing money. So you think, oh, well, I can't spend on that. It's wasting money. It's this. And actually, when you look at that person that then went to university, or you've done stuff yourself, you've made investments in yourself that actually are allowing you to serve your purpose, to live your values. And that can be quite a difficult thing, because that amount of money could equate to something. So say if you're working with a coach, or if you're working with a personal trainer, one thing as a personal trainer is people go, well, hang on, that personal training session's more than my membership, or it's more than my week shopping, or it's more than this. But that same person will probably go out and spend a few £100s on something I wouldn't dream of. You know, so we've got all these things in, and realizing and being aware that we've built them from external, and actually are they the same as our internal and what we actually believe and what we want to believe. That was mine based on money, because it can be a really limiting factor, can't it? And it can stop people from really living their dreams as well.
But actually, investing in yourself can be very connected to your self-worth as well. So it may be that they need to go back and start looking at that first, which unfortunately means investment. But, you know, if you can just take that step to have that small investment, it literally changes everything. So that coach I had when I was 35 was quite a bit of money at the time, that I thought, oh my God, how am I going to do this? But it really, what she did to change my whole course of life is just like, wow. So yeah, there's definitely that.
Especially when you look back, because it's almost a gulp kind of moment when you see the cost that it's going to cost for something. And and you will only necessarily go for it if you believe it's going to work. And there's a lot, there's a lot of work going on beforehand before you make that transaction. But then as soon as you do, and the times you come off them calls, or when you've been with your coach, or you then implement something, or something comes off, or you might get an opportunity that came in and you think, this is all because I have chosen not only to invest in myself, but to open myself up to all these things and to take this chance.
Yes.
And you start seeing things differently. And before you know it, that money that you spent on that is insignificant, really, because it's then made so much more value in other areas of life as well as just financial, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good to hear that actually because there's so many people that haven't seen the power of coaching. And I know you are a coach yourself and you help coaches, and it's also good to see actually you are good at helping coaches because you have had a coach and you are a coach, so you've got that full rounded thing. Because I think sometimes we're in a world where there's more coaches helping coaches than there are coaches.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because there's a big market for it at the moment. But you can certainly pick out, as soon as you start speaking to, you can pick out the ones that are experienced and that know what they're talking about, because you've been through it yourself. And like you say, we are the experts of our own journey. So by and large, every coach will be different.
Yeah, and it's never end. It's a continuous thing. So if you look at Maslow's theory, where he talks about human needs, and first you've got the food, then you've got the shelter, and then the basic human need is you've got to have food and you've got to have shelter, and then you sort of go up, and the top one is self-actualization, and that's the fact that we have to continuously improve ourselves and work on ourselves. Also, you think about the world changing and COVID and all these things that impact us. But yeah, I've got 2 coaches at the moment for different things. And I probably will always have a coach, because it's a sounding board. It's somebody else helping you. It's just helping me develop more and more, because I personally don't believe in self-actualization. I don't think we don't ever get to a state where we're perfect. I think it's just a continuous thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that is important. But there is stigma, and before I accidentally found personal development, I had heard of self-help books and I just thought they were a joke.
Yeah, and I'll level with you on that, because I've looked into a lot of things like not medication, mindfulness. Meditation is the right one, not medication. And there's always that stigma of it's a bit hippie, it's a bit out there, it's a bit American. Nothing American, but there is a view of it's a bit, airy fairy or whatever we're saying in up the north. But once you actually, unless you try and apply it or really find out a little bit more about it, you're never really going to understand what it is. And sometimes that stigma's from how it's packaged. Now, I don't know about you, but you're a social entrepreneur and coach, and I find it really difficult to tag what kind of coach I am, because as soon as I say life coach, that automatically says, hang on, this is a guy that drives a flash car that comes around and just talks to me for an hour and gets paid loads of money. That's what I thought a life coach was.
That's your perception.
Before the development. Yeah. And then I looked into it and I was like, hang on. I know people that play that role, but maybe not in a professional. So I know people that coach or that will help. And I myself, as a personal trainer, before I even got into coaching, my style of training was actually more a hybrid between training and coaching.
Yeah, health coaching. Yeah.
So it's trying to I suppose it's trying to find. They always say it's better to market yourself to try and find a niche, but every time I try and find a niche, I fail, because I'd love to be able to help everybody. So I've decided that the niche is me, and if people like me, then let's have a chat. If you don't like me, then it's not going to work. So, and that's why I surround myself in superhero stuff. That's why this is a Superhero Finder podcast and YouTube, and this is why my logo is almost a bit like Superman, a bit like the Superman thing, because it's unearthing the powers. And I remember when you messaged me and you said, I don't quite know if I'm a superhero, And I knew from that statement that we should talk and we should get on here, because it is about that. I don't believe I'm a superhero, but I know that, and I know that you have, through your story, through your backstory, you have things that have changed your life, that you have grown from that, and that actually you have some huge strengths. So we talk about resilience. We could talk all day. There's loads of different words that we could use to describe you. And those are the things that you are then having an impact on the world. So I think by far you are one stellar example of a superhero. But you don't wear a cape. You don't wear, you don't wear lycra. Well, you might, but for all intents and purposes, it hasn't got a big logo on. You haven't come in your outfit. So, and actually, I think it's really important that we celebrate that there are people out there with the confidence to say, I am awesome and I want to help people. There are people like that. But there's also people that go, do you know what? I'm a regular person with experiences and I want to help people. Just getting that message out there was one of the reasons why I started this platform, because like myself, there's a lot of people that want to help people but don't know how. Because unfortunately we live in a world where confidence can equal a lot of negative. It can have a lot of negative connotations. Whereas
but again, that's just limiting beliefs that we've been taught, haven't we? The same as, filthy rich and all that. You could, all those things you hear that were, and even some movies, when you look at them, the olden movies, they always portray the baddie is always a rich person, is always, a confident. And so you like, again, and especially in my culture, we were taught, you have to be humble, you have to be pious and quiet and gentle and eyes to the floor, and it's like, no, it's about having the confidence to believe in yourself and just stand there strong. And you might not be, so you might think, well, who am I? But actually, so you think about a queue at a post office, yeah?
Am I going to get hit by one of your analogies now? Come on, bring it on.
So think about a queue at a post office, and you're, say, number 6 in the queue, and you look at number 3. So number 3 isn't at the desk. They're not there, but you would still like to be at number 3's position because they're ahead of you. So that's where sometimes you don't have to be at the end, or the all singing, all dancing successful, just by the fact that you're a little bit ahead of somebody else, and you can turn around and say, here, let me have, give me your hand, I'll help you get to where I am. It's fantastic.
And absolutely. And if you're that person if you're sat watching this or you're listening to this and you're that person that's at number 6 in the queue, and somebody does offer a hand or somebody does open up a conversation, then that essentially is, I'm going to sound really cheesy now, but it's a gift. It's somebody opening something up. So whatever the preconceptions are of, sometimes they say never to meet your hero, because when you meet your hero, they're no longer your hero because they're not everything you expected them to be.
You put them on a pedestal. You
put them on a pedestal, and you only see certain things about them. You see the things that you want to see. So which leads us nicely back to religion and the experience that you've had in all these, when we put things on a pedestal that we're not seeing our own interpretation of, we're seeing somebody else's interpretation of. What I would like, and again I'm going to put you on the spot because I think it's mega fun in this position, it's great, is if there was a soundbite, or if there was a 1 or 2 sentence thing or a tip that you could give someone, or something to take away from listening to us talk for about an hour. So thank you if you are still listening, by the way. We've had very much fun doing this. So if there was anything, what would it be?
Okay, that's a very good question.
I know. Well, if I had adverts or sponsors, I'd put them in now, but I don't. So
let's have a I would say that, even though you might have heard it before, it's definitely really, really important to understand that we are all completely unique. and we have our unique experiences and our unique perception of the world, and just stay in your lane. So you might be competitive and things like that and thinking, well, why are they doing well in business and I'm not yet? That's just because that's not your journey. That's just because it's not your turn. Or it may be, you know, you have some deeper stuff that you need to look at. This isn't one sentence or something, is it? Sorry.
No, it's fine. We'll deliver on the rules.
Yeah. So, but also by you walking through that's a lesson that you'll help somebody else with in the future.
Yes.
So just, let's think in a sentence, you are wonderful and unique in your own right. Yeah. Take the time to look at you and celebrate you.
I like that. That's beautiful. And also I would like to say on that as well, from my point of view, if you know of somebody that has the things you want and you feel jealous, it's not a bad thing to feel jealous, but just think, if you know that person, you've got a chance to be able to ask how they got it.
Mm.
So actually opening a conversation, accepting that feeling of jealousy and turning it into a feeling of actually drive and motivation, you could then speak to that person and say, what do you do? What did you do to get there? And maybe you'll find the little thing that you haven't thought of yet and put it into your lane, you know, and follow your journey.
Yeah, celebrate other people's successes, because that will bring more to you. But if you sit there in that sort of jealousy and what have you, then that unfortunately will keep your own success away. You're only hurting yourself by, you know, wishing bad on others. Not bad on others, but, you know.
It's like a horse with blinkers on.
Yeah, always just celebrate others and celebrate yourself.
So just celebrate.
Yeah.
Is literally. Well, like I said, I reckon we could have a part 2 or 3. We could even probably make a series, which, you know, I'll speak to you off. I'll speak to you off the camera. But if anybody wants to get in touch with you or ask you anything, or what is the best way for them to do that? Let's plug, Salwa.
Okay. Website's coming very, very, very soon, but mainly probably on social media and Facebook. I'm not really Instagram at the moment. So Facebook, it's just Salwa Abdul Hadi. Look me up and send me a message. So yeah, if you friend request me, just send a little message as well, because I do get some strange friend requests. So just let me sort of sift through. So if you send me a message as well, then, you know, but I am very, very open. So if you want to ask me anything, and also I always offer first session free, and sometimes that's enough. Some people go away and they're very happy with that. Like you said, you know, I believe in serving powerfully, and if you do just spread out joy, then it will come back in other ways. So.
Of course it was. No, fabulous. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been amazing to have you on and to just explore some of that experienced and knowledgeable brain as well. And good luck with the rest of your PhD.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I started it this year, so I haven't got very much done because of the whole COVID and everything. But yeah, we'll get there.
It's an ongoing journey. Just be in your lane, celebrate.
Yeah.
And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Crikey moly, that was powerful. Thank you so much for your time, Salwa, and I hope you enjoyed that at home. So thank you for watching. Please visit www.imdoingitfor.me to find out more about the podcast and the YouTube stuff that I'm doing, as well as coaching and personal training. And you can even get yourself some of this apparel. So see you there, stay super, and have a cracking day.